The major news items entering the round of Wisconsin at Road America are that Ocean Motorsports will be defecting to the ASCC in 2012, which is a news item that took a lot of people by surprise that weren't familiar with the situation. I quote Greg Munson, co-owner of Ocean Motorsports: "The tracks, the cars, the type of racing, and the engines don't resemble what the fans are familiar with." He's talking about what he sees in the Master Cup Series. "In the past few years, we've seen more European road courses and cars that fans can't find in the showroom on Monday. It's not the kind of racing I want to participate in, and my brother and I believe the future of American racing is in the ASCC. Well, I don't entirely agree with that. However, I believe that won't be the only team to announce that they'll be going to the ASCC next season. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Dan, off to you." Thank you, Lance. Capturing the Delano Pole Award in his Bolden is Luciano Salvarol of Brazil. Car number 3, the Klepper Media car. It's a pretty distinctive black and teal. Zelda Ashby on the outside, and what was probably one of the worst starts I've seen in PM Master Cup Series history, at least in recent memory, because the field was way spread out when they came to the green. Probably should have been waved off, but no matter. Salvarol got a pretty good start, and it was a clean start, which was the important thing. Ashby runs second. Oh, Ashby tries Salvarol there, tries to put some pressure on him, but Ashby runs wide in turn 3 as they come down to turn 4 under the bridge. Ethan Everett in the 11 looks like he's got a run, and Chris Johans in the 64 has a run on Ashby, who's had a pretty disastrous season. A lot of speed, but just not a whole lot of finishes. And into turn 5, hard braking area, left turn. And you see Johans doesn't quite get by Ashby, trying to hold off Everett. Here's Leon Keniston trying a bit of landscaping. A little bit of rallycross there, actually, in the sand. And Keniston's, well, of course, Ocean Motorsports has been the major headline. Leon Keniston, we're not sure if his contract is up at the end of the year. We know his teammate, Matthias Taub's contract, though, is. Ethan Everett in the 11 and Alan Hodges in the 13 haven't gotten around Zelda Ashby yet. Chris Johans holding up Everett a bit. That 11 car has had a lot of very good runs this season, and Ethan Everett just done such a good job with this team, considering what resources they've had. Oh, Alan Hodges gets into the back of the 11! Everett goes around! Ethan Everett just got turned by Alan Hodges in front of the entire field on the first lap! That seems a bit out of line. Ethan Everett just does not have the kind of luck. I mean, Everett looks like he's been in a race-winning position. Stuff like this just seems to happen to him all the time. It's happened again, and Ethan Everett's going to drop all the way back to the back of the field. You see Dan McKay go by in the 20, but this is just the kind of thing that just shouldn't be happening at all. Alan Hodges drives right through the back of Ethan Everett, puts him into the inside wall, and takes him out, and pretty much takes him out of contention to win this race. And I completely agree with the decision to give Hodges a time penalty. Avery Holtzman runs 35th in a backup car after trashing his primary car in an incident in qualifying with... Oh! Holtzman goes off the road now. Holtzman, at the end of lap 2, just throws it off into the scenery, but he gets it going again. That's his backup car, and he was involved in an incident in qualifying with this car. AJ Young, he caused 2 red flags during the qualifying session, and if you bring out a red flag in qualifying, you lose your fastest lap. Well, he brought out 2 red flags, and he only set 2 flying laps, so therefore he lost both of them and started last. In fact, he would have started last anyway, because AJ Young has been well off the pace. He's been complaining that the car has been very skittish under acceleration and braking, which, interestingly enough, is not a problem his teammate has been having. Tyson Lautenschlager has been keeping his car on the road all weekend long, and AJ Young is using Tyson Lautenschlager's backup car and Tyson Lautenschlager's setup. I don't think Marino Tutino is even that impressed with Young's performance, although he will be running at Quincy in a couple weeks' time. An independent smorgasbord over here as Allie Riggs is in front of this group, Chris Davenport in the 27, and the 68 car of Morgan Hamburg, 2 of the 4 Independence Trophy contenders in the race, the other one being Tyrone Stanley, and of course Allie Riggs in front of this mess. Chris Davenport won the TM Lights race here at Road America last season, and a lot of people were a little concerned when he was running in large groups, because Davenport's known for a bit of a crasher. He threw it off and... Oh, he did the... There goes Bouvier off the track. I was just mentioning that Chris Davenport threw his car off the road in qualifying, and Jacques Bouvier did the exact same thing Davenport did. And car number 7 goes out of the race very early. Very disappointing for the Frenchman. Luciano Salvarol is back up front in car number 3, or still up front, I should say. He's been leading since the start. Zelda Ashby tucked up right behind him in that 55 car, holding off Chris Johans. You'll notice, going back when we get to 16th place, Tyrone Stanley, car number 5, is the 4th Independence Trophy driver in the race in his Mecca. Here's Ethan Everett in car number 11. The damage from the first lap was apparently way too much. Everett decides to bring it into the pit lane and roll the dice on strategy. Here is Avery Holtzman, who has rejoined the race after his early crash. He's trying to be a very... Whoa! There goes Gasper Souza with some World Rally driving there. Souza might want to think of a rally career. Oh, there goes Holtzman off the course, and there goes his teammate in the 94 car. So the Kesslers apparently having a bit of a difficult weekend so far. Neither one of them qualified all that well. In fact, Holtzman is in his, as I said earlier, Holtzman in his backup car. Redlick is also in a backup car, but for a different reason. Redlick's had oh, there goes Redlick! He throws it off the exact same spot his teammate did. Redlick is in a backup car as well, but that's because his primary car had a fire during second practice. Lewis Kingston in the 44 car won this race last season, but he won it in Inglesby. Here he is trying his luck in a Juno, and it looks like he's having a very good run ahead of him so far. He just seems to have a knack for this racetrack in his Owen DeGarmo-owned Juno. Luciano Savaral leads the field into the pits on lap 7 for the first round of pit stops. Chris Johans comes in right behind him. Avery Holtzman and Lewis Kingston stay out an extra lap along with the 15 car of Bobby Porto. Whoa, that is Marcus Leonard in the 999 car, and I think there was contact with Leonard and Lewis Kingston's car. And we all know that Adrian Devereaux's favorite thing is back markers. And Marcus, and I think there was probably a shaken fist there from Devereaux to Leonard after that. Devereaux brings the 26 car into the pits on the end of the lap. Lewis Kingston does likewise, although Kingston lost a lot of time stuck behind Leonard. Here is Charlie Waters doing a bit of landscaping work in the number 10 car. Charlie Waters has been having a very messy season so far, but ever since we've come back to the States, he has picked up the pace quite significantly. Much to his own credit, he was running 14th at the time of that little excursion. Luciano Savaral is still in the lead on lap 9 after the pit stop cycle. Chris Johans in the 64 car is still second. Or has moved up to second after Zelda Ashby had some problems in the pit lane. And going a bit further back down the list, Packer Carroll running 11th in the Volpe, and Scott Hamilton having a fairly strong run as well. Zelda Ashby in the 55 car. They dropped the wheel nuts during the pit stop, so Ashby dropped down the order a little bit after that fairly slow stop for the Owen DeGarmo team. Ashby has had a very difficult year so far. She's no lack of speed. There just has been some problems with that car staying on the road. Packer Carroll in 13th place. He's running 13th in this shot anyway. He's not been having as good of a run as we expected. Because the Volpes are very strong here, the factory Volpes are very strong here last season, and they're just a little off of their glory earlier in the season on the road courses. They had a good showing in Europe, but ever since they've come back to the States, the Volpes seem to have lost their way a little bit. And hopefully this is only a temporary thing, because when Volpe runs strong, they put on a very good show. Here are two guys that are in their final year of their contracts, Arto Kekkonen and Robert Dorian. I haven't heard anything about Arto Kekkonen leaving Flash Racing, but there's been a lot of talk about Robert Dorian leaving Xenos, because of course Xenos prefers Canadian drivers in their cars most of the time. They do have a couple of Americans running with them in their Arla program, but Xenos tends to prefer Canadians, and there's been reports they want 2 Canadians in the Master Cup Series. Here's AJ Young doing what he does best, which is, go off the racetrack. And I think they should probably rename one of those little grass patches over there the AJ Young pit. And here is Zelda Ashby running over Marcus Leonard and spinning herself out. Marcus Leonard, of course, had a tire go down early in the race, brought himself into the pits a lap before everyone else, found himself a lap down. So Ashby running over a lap car that probably shouldn't have been there. That's not exactly. That's been sort of emblematic of Ashby's season, as has this. Well, giving a bit too much room to Hamilton. Ashby goes off the road, and Ashby goes out of the race. Huge disappointment for the Owen DeGarmo bunch. Chris Johans are on board with him as he follows Luciano Savaral into the pits for round 2 of pit stops. And no surprise here, Adrian Devereaux and Bobby Porto stay out 1 extra lap. Here is the pit lane on lap 13. Leonid Roderick and Scott Stoidler are leaving the pits. Here comes Roderick, makes contact with Mike Whitmore in the 36, and Roderick spins the car backwards. He is done for the day. He reverses the car out of the pits. Stoidler is given a bit of a break. You're not supposed to cross that yellow line there, but the officials gave Stoidler a break for that. It looks like Roderick just merged right into Whitmore's path. Not really anything that can be done about that, but anytime there's an incident in the pits in TM Master Cup Series competition, there is an automatic points penalty. And I would have to say that would be definitely the fault of Leonid Roderick in the number 4 car. It's not often I see him make a mistake like that, but I don't think that was Mike Whitmore's fault in that occasion. Matthias Taub in car 37 coming into turn 5. Gearbox goes on the 37 car, and Taub exits the race very early. Taub's contract ends at the end of the season. He'll be looking for a new drive next season. Devereaux and the 15 car of Porto hit the pits when they're one lap after the leaders. Here's Tyrone Stanley and Craig Mummert trying to get around Michael Sykes in the 45 car. Just no room for Stanley and Mummert to go. Looked like Mummert forced it 3 wide, but the officials ruled that a racing incident. I applaud them for that. Let the drivers race. Here's Zach Duff in car number 2 trying to put a lap on AJ Young, who promptly takes Duff off the road and into the tires. Oh boy. AJ Young really has had an eventful weekend for all the wrong reasons, on board with Zach Duff's Volpe, and you can bet that VRT officials protested this one and wanted the officials to put some kind of penalty just to AJ Young for this. Probably a fine in the works. Oh, Luciano Savoral has spun out of the lead in car number 3, but there are more problems with this car. There's drivetrain problems with the Bolden, and Savaral's day is done. Mikhail Polyakov is back in car 24, replacing John Parker Jr., and there are problems with the 24. He pulls the car off the track, however, he gets restarted by one of the track marshals. And Chris Johans is in the lead. Now this puts Devereaux up to second place, Tony Durbin up to third. Very good run for Tony. They've got a pretty big lead over the rest of the field right now. Devereaux has had great pit work. There is Bobby Porto in that 15 car running in 4th. The rest of the field's much more, a lot closer together. Mike Whitmore moving his way up to 7th, and Packer Carroll in 8th in the Volpe. Gasper D'Souza is running 11th. This is one of the few times he's been beating Michael Sykes on pace this season. Usually it's been the other way around. Sykes is at higher highs but lower lows than D'Souza, who has been much more consistent. Obviously, with Michael Sykes winning at Ohio last week, that sort of vindicates what I just said. However, Gasper D'Souza's drive we think may be in danger. However, he's right now putting on a great show so far. And here is AJ Young again. In car 42, that's Morgan Hamburg right behind him. Hamburg runs right into the back of AJ Young, makes no move to avoid him, and spins him right in front of Tom Delgado and oncoming traffic. Delgado's team owner, Takumi Katashima, protested the move by Morgan Hamburg, saying that was a deliberate tactic in order to hold up Tom Delgado. And, well, if you saw what happened on the first lap with Alan Hodges and Ethan Everett, that earned Alan Hodges an active time penalty. However, the difference here is that A.J. Young is a back marker, whereas Ethan Everett is for position. Typically in Arla competition and some other forms of racing, you don't nearly get as big a penalty for spinning out a lapped car than you do a car that you're battling for position with, as Tom Delgado goes around Morgan Hamburg for 12. However, the officials said, let's go with consistency, and I applaud them for that because they gave Morgan Hamburg an active time penalty. Tony Durbin in car 33 is having a fairly strong run so far. In fact, this is one of Tony's better runs on a road course. He's never won on a road course before, but it won't be today because Tony Durbin is losing boost pressure in that 33 car. He pits on lap 18, and his day is done. Unfortunately for Durbin, who's just had a real hard luck season. Chris Johans pits on lap 19. Bobby Porto in the 15 does likewise, abandoning Adrian Devereaux, which puts Devereaux in the catbird seat. Devereaux gets one hot lap in and pits on lap 20. Here we are with Lewis Kingston, Packer Carroll, and Scott Hamilton, who are also on the Adrian Devereaux pit strategy. Porto is in the 15 car, has a big plume of smoke coming out of the back of the car. Valve train problems take him out of contention. Scott Stoidler in car number 23, and it looks like the exact same problem. Same problem, the same SAR engine. I wonder if those are R&D parts on those cars. Here's Cameron Taylor in the 99 car. Cameron Taylor said he has more experience on road courses than on ovals, but I haven't really seen a whole lot of improvement from Ohio. Cameron Taylor's really had a bit of a hard time. He's kept the car on the road, and and by the way, yes, Cameron Taylor is about to put A.J. Young a lap down, but Cameron Taylor not exactly on the pace this week either. He will be back for Quincy, we're being told. Mike Whitmore in car 36, continuing to have a very strong and consistent run despite that earlier prang in the pits. Chris Johans into the pits, and you'll notice Adrian Devereaux pitted with him. So Devereaux pits on the same lap as Johans on the 64, and what you'll notice is that Devereaux had to take on less fuel, and therefore he exits at the same time Johans does. A great move by Devereaux and the Hodges-Walter team. They put him right on the back bumper of Chris Johans' 64, and now the battle for the lead is back on. Adrian Devereaux in that 26 car is known for being one of the few people you really don't want to see in your rearview mirror. At least he's becoming known for that, because Devereaux will race. Once he sees the lead, there's just a fire in Devereaux's eyes, and he just really starts racing hard for the lead. Chris Johans in the 64 car, smooth and consistent, whereas Devereaux in that 26 car has not really shown a whole lot of consistency, but he does have the speed to win championships. He's done so in the RROL already. Lewis Kingston and Scott Hamilton hit the pits when one lap after the leaders. Leon Kennison in the 69 car has all sorts of problems with this car. The team insists on trying to fix the car, however, that 39 car stays in the pits, which is a shame because Kennison had a very strong run here today. Chris Johans is leading with Adrian Devereaux in second. We're on lap 26 of this 36-lap race, and Chris Johans continues to have a strong run. Lewis Kingston in the Juno, Scott Hamilton having very good runs in those two cars. So we could see a very good battle evolving for third as well, the final podium position, as Mike Whitmore in that 36 car continues to slowly march his way through the field. Mike Whitmore started 20th in the grid. He's having a great run today, as is Packer Carroll in the Volpe, even though he hasn't really been on the leader's pace this weekend. You'll notice also D'Souza, Delgado, and Dorian also having strong runs, and that is Chris Davenport in 10th place, Scott Bates in 11th. Keniston is scored in 12th, even though he is done for the day. Scoring error there, it looks like. Lap 27, looks like the leaders are splitting the lapped car of Franz Redlich. Devereaux holds the inside line. He's going to try something in turn 5. Devereaux makes a bid for the lead. They come into turn 5, and they touch! Chris Johans goes around. Devereaux got into the back of Johans. Chris Johans goes into the sand pit. Oh no, that was going to be a very good battle for the lead, and that was a very, very optimistic maneuver by Adrian Devereaux, but it looked like it just didn't pay off. But in Devereaux's defense, if you're committed to the inside like that and the guy on the outside shuts the door, there's really nowhere for you to go but right into the back of him, which is pretty much what happened. That wasn't a very hard hit, but that was enough. Adrian Devereaux in that 26 car insisted that he was not in the wrong there, and I'm tempted to agree with him, because if you shut the door on someone in turn 5... What? If you shut the door on someone like that in turn 5, that late into the braking zone, you really don't give the guy behind enough of an opportunity to avoid that collision. That puts Mike Whitmore, though, in the lead of the race, so you can bet the Hodges-Walter team is going to be protesting this one. But this puts Mike Whitmore in the lead of the race. However, Adrian Devereaux has almost has a 30-second lead. So it's entirely possible that Devereaux could negate the active time penalty and win the race anyway. Chris Johans in the 64 car is running in second place now. He's not that far behind Mike Whitmore, and even though Devereaux is stretching the gap just a little bit, Chris Johans could still wind up on the podium and on the top step, assuming that he has a better pit stop than Mike Whitmore in that 36 car. So Chris Johans is not out of the battle for the win yet, which I think is only going to get more interesting. Ellen Hodges has an active time penalty. Packer Carroll in car number 1 is in contention for a podium spot. This is probably the closest car number 1 has been to the front of the field towards winning a race since Alexis Rainsford left the team. However, I think it's been that many races. That's how long it took for Packer Carroll just to gel with the rest of the team. He has a different race engineer this week, and I think that's made all the difference. Mike Whitmore in car 36 hits the pit lane. He is leading the race. After a one-race suspension, Whitmore has definitely cleaned his active as a driver, but Chris Johans' pit stop is quicker, and Johans beats Whitmore out of the pits, but here's Whitmore in that 36 car as they come through the kink, down through Hurry Downs and Canada Corner. as Whitmore is going to try to take the lead back. No, it doesn't look like he's going to make the move right here. As they come into Canada Corner, turn 12. Johans still in the lead. That's one of the prime passing opportunities. But Whitmore's got a good run coming off Canada Corner. Here he comes. Whitmore under the second bridge. And Whitmore around the outside takes the lead in a brilliant move around the outside of Johans. You don't see too many passes there, but that must have taken Johans by surprise, and Whitmore is pulling away in that 36 car. Wow! Mike Whitmore with an awesome move takes over the lead, and Chris Johans in second place. Adrian Devereaux is being scored in third position, and you'll notice Devereaux is not, if he just pulls a little bit further of a gap, he could negate his active time penalty, so this is going to be a very interesting battle, despite what we thought was a race-killing maneuver there when Devereaux put Johans into the grass, into the sand, and almost took away the battle for the lead, but it turns out that's not to be. Here's Arto Kakkonen in 11th place. He's got a problem on this car. I think it's a flat tire. Kurt Pliskin, who's battling for position with Arto, just runs straight into the back of him. There's a car in front of you, Kurt. Not sure if you noticed that yet. I don't think Pliskin was terribly happy with Arto Kakkonen, and Arto Kakkonen certainly wasn't too happy about Kurt Pliskin. And if we know anything about the officials today, thank you very much. And anyway, in the closing stages of the race, Chris Johans is trying to make up the gap to Mike Whitmore, and in fact, he is doing so. In fact, both of them are making up some of the gap to Adrian Devereaux in the 26 car, who is well out in front of these two cars. Adrian Devereaux in car 26 was the first car to cross the start-finish stripe. As he comes right behind Tyson Lautenschlager's Tutino, Adrian Devereaux is the first car to cross the finish line in this 26 car, and you can guarantee Devereaux thinks he won the race. However, Mike Whitmore in car number 36 crosses the finish line in first. Adrian Devereaux did not pull enough of a lead to negate his active time penalty, and Chris Johans crossed the line in second place. About 7 seconds was the gap from Mike Whitmore to Adrian Devereaux, who apparently did enough of a good job navigating traffic to ensure that Devereaux did not score the victory. Adrian Devereaux came home in third, and from what I understand, he and Chris Johans had a very loud argument on the podium. I understand there's a bit of bad blood there that's beginning to brew. The Hodges-Walter team protested the active time penalty, so I would consider the results of the top three cars provisional at best. After a pretty messy start, looks like the Volpe gang had a very strong run today. Packer Carroll, best run since he took over the number one car, and Chris Davenport. This is going to do his Independence Trophy hopes a lot of good after he gets a 6th place. Casper D'Souza also scores his first top 5 of this season, but remember, Indy is coming up, and D'Souza did very, very well there last season. Robert Dorian in 7th position. This is going to do his hopes of being re-signed a lot of good. Tom Delgado puts himself back in the points after a strong run here today. Scott Bates in the 88 car continues his consistent season. Lewis Kingston in the only Juno to make it to the finish. Scott Hamilton 11th. Charlie Waters had a very strong run today. Kept the car on the road except for that pretty wild piece of driving we saw early in the race. Good job by Charlie to hang on to it. Dale Roswell 13th. Morgan Hamburg would have come home 6th. That active time penalty dropped him to 14th. Allie Riggs in 15th position had a very quiet run today. Not a whole lot happened with Allie Riggs' day. Yamino Tenchi 16th. Alan Hodges' active time penalty dropped him to 17th. I think he would have come home 7th had he not have received that penalty. And Michael Sykes, the winner last time out at Ohio, comes home 18th, still in the points. Ethan Everett 19th. Great recovery drive by Ethan Everett despite that first lap incident. And 20th place. First points for Tutino for Tyson Lautenschlager and that number 43 team. Scuderia Tutino was very, very happy. They were celebrating as if they won the race, and they just scored their first point of the season. Now, after they've scored, all the full-time teams have points to their credit. Speaking of points, let's have a look at the TM Master Cup Series Drivers' Championship leaving Road America. Here's where things get interesting. If Adrian Devereaux actually wins his appeal and gets the race win back, he takes over the points lead. Alexis Rainsford's total of 314 points has been very impressive, and I'm amazed that it's taken this long for someone else to unseat Rainsford as the championship leader. Leonid Roderick is sitting in 4th along with his teammate Arto Kakkonen. Avery Holtzman, another dismal day, puts him at 4 DNFs on the season. Chris Johans Very good points day for him either way. He's 75 points out of the points lead. Yamino Tenchi in the 831 car has not really had the same speed she did at the beginning of the season. Marcus Leonard in the 999 car had a miserable day all around. Tom Delgado is back in the hunt. Looks like momentum has really picked up on Delgado's side of Star Team Nemoto. 10th in the points is Kurt Pliskin, who can use a good run. Mike Whitmore's provisional wins. It's about 163 points, 151 out of the lead. Lewis Kingston's 151 points puts him 163 points out of the lead. Just thought I'd mention that. Michael Sykes continues his impressive sophomore season. VRT has apparently told Zach Duff that if you finish in the top 10 in points, you are guaranteed the drive for next season. Ethan Everett in the 11 car sits 15th. His teammate Bobby Porto is 17th. Franz Redlick in the 94 car has had a miserable past couple. Franz Redlick in the 94 car has lost a bit of his luster since he came back to the States. Gaspar de Souza, on the other hand, has done very well since we've come back to the States. Alan Hodges in 19th. His difficult season continues, and Luciano Savaral drops all the way down to 20th in points. And here's how the Independence Trophy looks leaving the round of Wisconsin. The top 3 cars have already locked in their 4 runs. Everyone else is still eligible for the Independence Trophy. Tyrone Stanley has moved up to 6th with 142 points. Allie Riggs and Chris Davenport crack the top 10, each with 113 points.